What's up, YouTube?
We're coming back at you with some hot, fresh memes again.
Here we go. Straight into it with the memes.
Okay, I saw this one on Reddit, and I was fucking surprised to realize that not only were these two real dates that coincided with each other on, on the calendar, but they were both from Nickelodeon, and it reminded me of my childhood. And I think a lot of people from like the early 2000s that grew up watching, Timmy Turner and SpongeBob, I think they'd like it a lot.
I wonder if something specific happened on March 15th and the creators are like lamenting over it with all of these references to it.
No, maybe not. Who knows? It could be. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is a writer conspiracy from Nickelodeon. I love the fact that Annoy Squidward Day was mentioned. I feel like there needs to be a day where everyone annoys one of their friends. How else do you know that you're friends if you don't annoy each other,
For real. Especially when they're stuck up like Squidward and he's just in his own world, doom and gloom and up in his room.
Up in his room. Yeah. Well, also, I love the fact that kind of talks to Doomer culture too. It talks about how Denzel Crocker lost his happiness, and that it's just another source that we draw upon for TV shows that we watched when we were kids. Like my favorite thing about the Fairly Odd Parents, though, it does have some sort of this like existential dread built into it. My favorite thing ever that's said in the show by one of the adults was by the dad. I think, what was his name? I don't know. I don't think they ever actually said the dad's name. It was Timmy's dad, and he was talking. He held this little glass box up, and he was saying, "This is where I kept all my dreams. If I had them," and that just speaks to me so much. Yeah,
Yep.
I liked it because it was March 15th, so it was today, and I saw that, and I felt part of current events.
Feels good to be today.
It does feel good to be today. Today was fucking awesome, man. It was beautiful outside. I rolled around in the grass. I sat on my back porch, enjoyed the weather, listened to a lot of jazz too.
Nice. Beats the heck out of that deep freeze that we had.
Oh, I know, it was awful. They're still tallying up how many people died after that too. I think so far we're up to about 27, something like that. Sucks that anyone had to die over that. Those are senseless deaths.
We live in the first world. Like, why was there an interruption in production at all?
Not anymore, man. You're right. Why was there an interruption in power production? We just weren't ready, and it was because our governor and ERCOT specifically chose not to winterize our system, so we got screwed.
I'm sure we're ready now, though, right? Like,
right.
It only takes one bad event to learn our lesson and fix things up proper, doesn't it? Citing the 2011 deep freeze and the one before that both had exactly the same effect.
One would think. Man, we're never gonna learn our lesson from this. We're just gonna keep making the same mistake. That's why we actually did you hear that our infrastructure got an upgrade from the last time it was graded? We're now at a C- instead of a D+ or something like that. Still not good. It's still terrible.
C's get degrees.
Yeah.
You know what they call doctors that graduate at the bottom of their class? Doctors.
What? Oh my god. Yeah, I guess that's true. Fuck, man. It reminds me of one of the other memes coming up. Talk about it when we get there.
Yep. Speaking of other memes, we got more memes.
Ah, yes, Shrek. Shrek celebrates 20 years with the new 4K release on May 11th. That's coming up pretty soon too, I guess. And was it about a month from now?
Feel old yet?
Yeah, I know. I feel real old. I remember watching this with my sister. We rented Shrek when we watched it for the first time. We rented it from Blockbuster. Doesn't exist anymore. It tells you how long ago it's been since that movie came out. Man, you can ask a kid on the street today, "Hey, have you heard of Blockbuster?" And they'll be like, "What the hell is that? I've never heard of that. Is that some sort of like demolition game?"
Yeah.
They're not gonna know what that is.
We used to get Netflix in the mail. You're lying.
Yes. Yeah. We did. You used to have to mail in to Netflix to get your DVDs, and they'd mail it to you. And times have changed.
Yep.
And you know what's awesome to think is that in the last 20 years since Shrek's been out, is the amount of media and memes and content that the idea of Shrek has produced. I mean, you see him everywhere in meme culture now. He's almost part of our vernacular because of it.
Oh yeah. I don't know why people gotta hate on Smash Mouth though. Star is a good song and they made other good songs. Maybe they just love to hate him.
Well, I can tell you this, Smash Mouth, I don't think they actually like the fact that the All-Star was their biggest hit and that people only recognize it from Shrek. They actually kind of hate that, but whatever. They wanted to be rich and famous, and then they got what they wanted. I did like this meme though because it combined two of my favorite things, Shrek and that Office meme. Like that one in particular, I use that in real life. When things are happening that you wouldn't expect, like I'll use it at work. Say like your boss buys his pizza for lunch, and it arrives, I'm like, "Oh my god, it's happening! All right, what's the procedure? I'm going to proceed. I'm always the first one to get pizza at work if there's ever pizza to be had.
Nice. Do you impose slice limits?
Well, everyone has to get one first, and then it doesn't matter after that. It's kind of a free for all.
I see.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do like everybody gets two, but you got to make sure that you got to ensure the supply before you can guarantee everybody two.
Right. You have to know how many slices you have per pizza and how many people you have and all that. It's like first grade math all over again. It's a lot of work.
And when there's pizza to be had, then who's gonna sit around like, wait, everybody stop, we have to do math.
Yeah, we have to do math real
control the
quick.
situation.
Right. When my family was eating breakfast, when we were all still lived together, when we were kids especially, we'd do this shit. We would have biscuits every morning. We had a family of 6. Tins came with 8 biscuits. That's a problem. That means that there's 2 biscuits left over at the end of every meal, and we would always argue over it. It was always an ordeal. There was always a yelling match every Sunday morning over who got the remaining 2 biscuits. My favorite thing that always came up was my stepbrother Connor would always say that he has had 5 of them, and there was 8 to begin with. There was no way he could have had 5 biscuits, but he would always say that, and he would just drive both my sisters insane. and everyone knew he was lying, but he would say it anyways because he knew it would get a rise out of them. I almost had to, when I was a kid, I hated that, but like now I kind of respect that about him. It was pretty funny. You should do that next time I order pizza. I'll be like, hey, how much pizza has everyone had? And everyone's gonna be like, well, I've had 1 slice, and I'll be like, well, I've had 4 pizzas. You guys can get the last. You guys can fight over the last 2 slices. I'm out.
I've already had the lion's share. Like, what?
It's like, well, how did you get that? I only got 1.
I bet it works better on kids than adults.
Oh, it does. I mean, kids are a lot more gullible. They believe things like that more easily.
We got more memes to look at.
We do have more memes to look at.
This one just makes you wonder what was going on in the minds of the city planners. The one thing that I can say is good that they did is they didn't continue this street all the way to that intersection and make some weird 5-way intersection. But
yeah,
why does this section of neighborhood have to be floated and rotated? It doesn't look like it does anything good for the plots. In fact, it creates dead plots where the land narrows.
Like that, yeah, and it makes that one house next to empty plot have an extra long lot, I guess. Part of their yard.
It might be part of their yard, or it might be just a separate undeveloped lot.
Yeah, maybe. Dude, I don't know. Just looking at that as r/mildly infuriating content, that is totally what that is. It's not right. It's just ever slightly just off.
It makes you wonder if anybody was actually at the helm, or if this just kind of happened on its own.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if, well, you could say that maybe that was there before the rest of the city. Maybe that was a tiny little township before the rest of the city grew up around it, and that's kind of just how it happened, but it almost just seems too on purpose,
Maybe. There was a trend, I think it was back in the 60s, where we decided that putting neighborhoods on grids was bad because cars would come speeding through straight roads. And so we made all these roads that were really wide, and they had, trees or whatever on the side. They were essentially designed to look safe, and what that produced is people going fast on those roads, and they were in neighborhoods, which is bad. So then we started making lots of cul-de-sacs and 3-way stops and twisty neighborhoods so that people wouldn't go as fast. And part of that was also putting a kindergarten and a grocery store within walking distance of most neighborhoods. That sort of became standard practice.
Well, that's good. Planned communities, I think, are a thing of the future, for sure. I mean, think about it. There's really only one way to get cars off the roads, and that's to eliminate the need for them whatsoever. Well, how do you do that? Make it so you can walk everywhere. My family, or my dad's hometown in Greece, I mean, I can walk literally everywhere in that town that I need to get to. If I need something, I can walk there to get it. The grocery store, the nearest one, I could throw a rock from the front door and hit it. It's just like right around the corner. There's a doctor's office that's within a mile. There's a pharmacy within a mile of the house where they live. I mean, everything's there. So it's like you don't even need a car.
What you want. You can't have a Starbucks, a McDonald's, a Burger King, a Popeyes, a Cane's all in your neighborhood. And if you can't have all of it, then why would you want to have any of it?
Right. I wish in my neighborhood we had more food places. The only thing we have is Family Dollar. I actually live in kind of a food desert. The closest store that's not Family Dollar is more than a mile away. Kind of sucks to drive kind of far. And like the closest grocery store is like 2.5 miles away. Pretty bad.
I guess it gets you used to buying what you need at Family Dollar. You don't
I tried that for a bit. I tried the canned food diet for a little bit, and it was all right. I got kind of tired of it though. bunch of salty foods, nasty, and the vegetables. I mean, they're all right for you, but like canned vegetables, get kind of tired of it after a bit. Yeah, we do. We got more things to doodleize.
It's another city planning one. Who decided that it was going to be a good idea to name a bunch of 68th streets? And then you know that they did the same thing with like basically all the other numbers. You can see the 67 continuing up there.
Yeah, you get 68th Avenue, 68th Road, 68th Drive, 69th Avenue, 69th Road. It's crazy. It's a crazy pattern. Imagine having to be a taxi driver and someone says, "Oh, I'm going to 68th." They're like, "Which one? Which 68th
Was the
Road, Drive, Avenue?" It makes a difference. It's like a difference of a few miles.
For real. Was the goal to just create as much confusion as possible? Because mission accomplished.
Or maybe they wanted to save on printing the road signs, so they just had a bunch of the same numbers, and then they just changed the end of it so they could justify it.
But if they're using like even in ye olden days of like the printing press, you have your 6 and you have your 8 and you have your 9, like you got the whole set of numbers. So you don't really gain anything by reprinting the same number combination. I mean, even when you're printing 110th Street, you use the 1 and the 0 and then the rest of the characters.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I wonder what it's like living there. It would be interesting to see if people actually what they have to say about it. We should get someone from Queens on the show. We could interview them. Be like, hey, what's it like living there? Which 68th Street do you live on?
I wonder if they walk to all the places they need. Like if 68 truly has everything they need.
Maybe that's something that they do for city planning, like we were talking about. Maybe the whole section of 68th Streets does have like everything you need.
At least they don't intersect the Grand Central Parkway. The highways are separated from the streets.
Wait, okay. One thing I noticed too is normally streets in cities like that, the east to west are like the numbers, and then north to south are like the streets that have the names. But here, they're both just numbers. You got 108th, 110th run, I guess that's north and south, but then the other streets run east west. But then you have Jewel Avenue. Queens does seem to be an overall confusing city. Where's the consistency in their naming scheme?
Maybe nobody was at the helm. Nobody was guiding the city planning. It was just a free for all. Somebody came up and said, "I think it should be like this," and then 1,000 other voices and no centralized planning.
Kind of what Dallas was like. Originally, we were gonna have a canal built around the city. It was gonna be the Trinity River, and that project never ended up coming to fruition. So that fell by the wayside. Now Dallas is a bunch of little neighborhoods that eventually got connected by urban sprawl. My mom used to tell me about going from Lakewood, which is in southeast Dallas, going to around where Northwest Highway is, which I want to say, I don't know what you call that area, maybe just further north Dallas, Hillside, I suppose. And that's only 3 miles apart, 3 or 4 miles apart, but that used to be a big deal even back then in the 70s and 80s. They were further apart, but now the city's just gone out of control. It kept growing and kept growing, and we kept adding more people. And now it's just big. And now it's a bunch of little ecosystems all connected by one city.
Kind of beautiful.
It is kind of beautiful that way too. You get a lot of diversity in a very small geographic area.
But you also get food deserts and probably other deserts too.
That's true.
Not stuff.
Well, you could define different kinds of deserts for different kinds of things. I mean, the fact that you could say there's a food desert kind of shows that. I would say that the area or the neighborhood where I grew up is kind of a diesel desert, because when I tried to go buy diesel for my Volkswagen, I couldn't find it over there. But in my neighborhood, there's a gas station that sells diesel. It's funny that way. Some areas are better about it than others.
I've seen a lot of small businesses in Dallas. Like whenever you drive around, there's like little shopping centers, and it seems like there's very few chain stores that have their signs up in those shopping centers. Mostly like what looks like one-offs.
Well, yeah, and especially in the area where I live, you got to remember it was possible for that to happen because the real estate in Dallas is so cheap, so it makes single owner businesses and small businesses like that a lot more viable in a place like this. If you go down Greenville Avenue, there's a ton of restaurants where like the only one and only version of that restaurant exists on Greenville Avenue. Of course, you get some like Big Shucks or All Shucks who have a couple locations throughout the town, but they all started in Dallas. And I mean, I think it's mostly just because of the cheap real estate here. It's not going to stay that way for long, though. It's going up because all those Californians come in here and ruining everything and taking all of our good land.
And it seems to just be the way that things develop naturally. When there's more demand, then the prices go up.
Right.
It seems like a lot of the land is developed on already. It's used up. It's for lease maybe, but everything's already leased out.
Yeah, exactly. Now the only direction to go is out. Well, we're still building outwards, but now the direction's going to go up too. Downtown area around Dallas has gotten developed, and I think we're starting to make a few more upward movements. There's a lot more high rises. There's a lot more apartment buildings to fit more people. You know, those are taller structures. But no one's really in charge of it. The city of Dallas didn't really figure that 80,000 families are going to move here on average a year. That's what we've seen for the last 10 years. One day I want it to look like Judge Dredd, you know, where we have super cities and each structure or each tower is its own little city. I always thought that'd be a cool direction for the world to go.
Be
Sort of
so cool.
dystopian, but pretty cool.
Self-contained mega structures
Yeah.
in a mega structure.
And cops that deal out judgment on their own. Oh wait, we can already have that now.
Yep. The courts are supposed to look over them, but really there are no laws. There are just cops.
Well, there are laws, and cops are supposed to enforce them. It's crazy though, because you think about it. A lawyer has to go to school for basically 8 years to become a lawyer. You have to get your undergrad, and then you have to get your graduate in law. A cop only has to go to school for 6 months to be a cop, and that's it.
And then if you try and argue with them, they're like, don't argue the law with me.
Yeah, don't argue with the police officer. I know better than you. Like, all right, I'll talk to my lawyer first, and we'll see who knows more.
Yep.
That video, "Don't Talk to Police." That one's a good one. Our viewers should look at. If you're afraid to talk to the police, you should be. Nothing you ever say can or will help you if you tell it to the police.
There was a guy in California, and he got pulled over, and the cop asked him if he had any weapons in the car, and he said yes. And then, he goes around and he opens the trunk and he shows the cop this AK that he has. And of course, in California, AKs are no-nos because they're featured rifles. But he has made his rifle featureless, comply with the law. He's put what's called a fin grip on it, which essentially makes the pistol grip of the gun so unwieldy that it's not considered a pistol grip anymore. So he's interested in complying with the law. He's put a device on his rifle specifically to comply with the law that reduces its functionality, and the cop confiscates his gun anyway.
Did the guy get arrested?
No, he just got his gun confiscated.
That's still pretty lame.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have gotten his gun confiscated. Like, he was obviously trying. If I were the cop, I'd have given him a warning.
He was happy to take that guy's gun. He got to exercise his cop rights that day.
His authority. Yeah, he got to exercise his authority upon someone else.
Oh, it feels so good.
I wonder to what extent that, for cops, like how much of their job is just them exercising their authority. Because I've definitely met some cops where, like, when I met them, that I didn't feel that way about them, and there's other ones that when I was talking to them, I felt like that was all they were there for, was to assert their authority over me.
Some of them are just there to be violent. Like, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos of the protests going on globally, and there's like, guys on the ground, and he's surrendered, and he's got his hands up over his head, and he's in like a very non-aggressive, surrendered position, and a cop comes by and just sprays him with pepper spray.
Oh yeah. Well, like, if you watch some of the videos from the protests and the riots earlier this year, you see cops just walking past people and pepper spraying them in the face like they're Febrezing people, like it's nothing. And they don't even care. Dude, just watching that kind of hurts. I mean,
but you can't retaliate.
You can't retaliate. That's against the law. If you assault a police officer, they'll arrest you, right? Like, I don't think anyone should just randomly do it, but I feel like if you're defending yourself in a situation like that, you should not be arrested. I mean, that's some BS.
For real.
One day we'll see a change.
Until then, we'll just make memes. Look at memes.
Yeah, exactly. We'll make them our dreams. Maybe one of our viewers can solve police brutality. Well, we urge all of you to look into that.
Indeed.
Oh, I like this. Yeah, never ask a woman her age, a man his salary, or the People's Republic of China how many human rights they violated. I saw this one mostly because I thought it was referring to the Uyghurs. Now, if anyone out there doesn't know who the Uyghurs are, it's an ethnic group in China that is being surveilled right now, mostly just for being themselves. And there's a lot of controversy about this because China is a UN nation, and they are enslaving these people. They're doing all sorts of crazy things to them. They're put on lists. Uyghurs have disappeared and been pulled off the streets, and we don't really know what to do because they're a big superpower now, and they're UN members, so we can't just, be like, hey, all we can really do is be like, hey, stop doing that thing. Otherwise, we're going to start a third world war. Like, who knows what'll happen? But, I mean, I saw this, and I was like, it's important, it's important to mention things like that. The craziest story I've heard about the plight of the Uyghurs is the fact that, so they work in factories, and it's the fact that they will write notes to people by, writing a note on a piece of paper, and they'll stick it in like a box. It's like this one guy in particular, he worked at a factory that produced Christmas decorations, and this woman in the United States opened her box of, I think it was Christmas ornaments is what she had. I'll have to go back and look later. But she opened the box, and there was a note in there written in very broken English that said, "Please help us. We are being enslaved." And she's like, "Wow, I was not expecting to get that in my ornaments." It's just It's just how bad it is over there. You know, something does need to be done. Like something really does need to be done about them.
We should prosecute the lady that bought the Christmas ornaments because she was basically complicit in slavery.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, she bought ornaments from a country that enslaves people, so it's her fault. You know what? In fact, I bet if we crucified that woman, that would solve all the problems for them. She's basically Hitler, right?
Maybe instead of starting a third world war, we could just like all the UN countries embargo China. We will embargo you until we can verify that you're not violating human rights to the same degree that you are right now.
Yeah, we could.
It would hurt us too. I think it would hurt them more. Their whole economy right now is built around export. They don't really consume a lot of the things that they produce. The surplus just gets put in warehouses.
It does, yeah. Well, and I think that also kind of speaks to what will our economy look like in the future too. The United States is/was the world superpower. Now, whether or not we remain that way remains to be seen. But a lot of our stuff does still come from China, and we don't make a lot of stuff for ourselves, you know. So the question is, I guess, is in the future will we start manufacturing things in the United States again, or will we just reduce the amount we consume and become a non-consumer society where we just live off the earth, do what we need to do to survive, and just be happy with what we have? You know, I think you know what we should do one day is like a piece on, well, we could do a piece on consumerism, and another one I think we should do is one on the automotive history of the United States, because I think that the field of like automotive, it's the most important piece of American identity we have today to really talk about how we got to this point where we're at now. Like there are something like 7 cars for every one American. You could probably ask any American to name a car brand, and they could tell you 1 of 3 American car manufacturers off the top of their head. I mean, it is so ingrained into our identity and things like that. And I always think it's important to reference that and keep in mind that that's part of where we come from. We should do something about that one day.
Pretty sure that cars as an invention have killed more people than any other human invention. I'd be wrong about that, but it sounds right.
Well, one thing's for sure. Driving a car is more dangerous than an airplane, and car crashes have killed more people than airplane crashes. So there's that. You know, I also wonder what's going to replace airplanes. Kind of the way the airline industry is getting hit because of the virus. I think we've talked about this before too. We were talking about how we kind of want Zeppelins to take back over for airplanes and how the Zeppelin industry should take back off. I mean, that would be so freaking cool. You could take a luxury airliner Zeppelin across the Atlantic. I mean, I think that would be an awesome experience. And that's kind of where people are right now too. People look for cool experiences to fill out their life more than anything else. It's kind of what the whole look at me culture we've built as a society has been about, is more about experiences and sharing them. Yep. I think that would be a cool direction for air travel.
It would take a long time to cross the Atlantic in a Zeppelin.
Probably... I looked it up. I think we did the math on that one time. Didn't we figure out that it would take like 28 hours?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think
flights right now take like, what is it, like 6 or less 13 hours? 13 hours?
Well, I think, okay, from JFK to like Heathrow Airport, I want to say is like 8 hours, something like that. Usually flights I've taken across the Atlantic have been from Philadelphia to Greece, and that's about 13 hours. But you got to figure you're going hundreds of miles into the European continent, well, if not over 1,000. So it does add a little bit more time. But I mean, still 28 hours is not that bad. It's a day and 4 hours. I think
especially
I could wait that
when
long
the craft is moving slow, and you know you've got your own living quarters and whatever. Because you couldn't do that in like an economy class airline seat. Nobody would pay money or pay any substantial amount of money to travel economy class in a Zeppelin for 28 hours.
No, they would pay for it though if it was significantly cheaper than a conventional airline flight. That's about the only reason why I could think of it. That, and it is just kind of a cool way to travel. I definitely think fuel wise it would be a lot more economic, mostly because you're not spending fuel trying to stay airborne and trying to stay aloft. Most of your fuel in a blimp is just the air. So it is efficient in that regard.
We'll take the water from the ocean and we'll use electrolysis to turn it into hydrogen and oxygen. We'll export the oxygen to places that have high pollution so that they can just spill the oxygen out into their polluted environments. We'll take the hydrogen and we'll use that for whatever energy uses we need. The portion of that hydrogen that goes into fusion reactors will turn into helium, and that helium we'll use in our Zeppelins. We'll use the whole buffalo, all the way down to the bone.
The whole thing. I love that. Yeah, we could do that. I mean, the world's facing a helium shortage anyway, so that'd be badass.
Imagine a company that comes up, they're a helium producer, and like the byproduct is fusion energy. It's like, we don't care about the energy. That's a byproduct. We just make
Yeah, we
helium.
just want the helium. Yeah, dude, anyone that could do that would, fuck, I don't even know. They would win the Nobel Peace Prize for the rest of forever, that's for sure. Solving the energy crisis is probably one of the most important problems we could solve as a species. You know, one thing I don't understand is why don't we focus on nuclear energy more than we do? I mean, a nuclear reactor is the only known machine to achieve over 100% efficiency, but we're afraid of it because of things like Chernobyl, and I think actually speaking of nuclear accidents, I think we're on the anniversary that it's the 10th anniversary of the Fukushima nuclear reactor meltdown. That was this month too.
Nice.
I know. But yeah, we're afraid of it because of that, but we shouldn't be. I mean, the more technology we put into it, the more research and development we do into it, the safer it should be.
The ever
But,
progressive state of Germany recently decommissioned all of their nuclear power plants in favor of placing wind and solar there, even though they operate at suboptimal efficiencies in the region. And now they import tons of nuclear power from France. I know.
Why would
It's so
they do
progressive.
I mean, okay, if I can understand that if France is an awesome power supplier and whatnot, and their nuclear supply is huge, I guess, but no, I can't actually. That was a lie. There's no reason to do that. There's
Yep.
absolutely no reason to do what they did. That hurts me inside. A government decided to get rid of something good that they had already invested in favor of something less efficient. You know what? Never mind. That sounds like something exactly government would do.
Yep, I love it. Although
Yeah.
France is they are a great producer of nuclear. When the nuclear program was in its heyday in America, France sent diplomats to go and see, I don't know, diplomats, but like they sent people to go and see what sorts of reactors the Americans were using. And of course, we had different companies that were building different reactors. So you would be trained on the Westinghouse reactor, and then, whatever reactor they had somewhere else is totally different. So you'd have to learn it as well. And France just picked one. They were like, that design. Yep, all of our engineers are going to know that one, and we're going to build that one. And so,
Well, I like that. They picked
Yeah.
one and they stuck with it.
so all of the nuclear reactors in France are the same. They're homogenous.
See, that's smart though. If you're gonna have a national power grid, it does need to be homogenized like that.
And they can
Jesus,
share engineers, and they can share protocol, and it's all the same.
Exactly. Yeah. There's never any question of how does this thing work. We've never seen this before. Oh, I was taught how to use this equipment. I don't know how this works. No, none of that. If only we could learn from them, but now we won't. This is America. Gotta do it the American way. It's the individual way or the highway.
Maybe having a whole bunch of different nuclear reactors produces innovation faster than just developing on one. And,
Perhaps.
the American way paved the way for the French way. If they didn't have 14 different reactor styles to choose from, then they wouldn't have chosen one as good as they did.
You're right. They did choose a good style, I suppose, just because they had the variety to choose from. I think it's it.
Yeah, we got to be
I'll tell
careful
you
that we don't stifle innovation with all of our regulation and choosiness.
That's true. You know what I would love to see is a Dyson sphere.
Yes.
We would have to keep developing up the energy chain like we've trying to do for the last rest of our existence. But we're slowing down here. I think the biggest speed bump we ever ran into was the classic human violence speed bump. Well, think about it this way: we weaponized nuclear power. Now we're kind of stuck on that front because of it. We're trying to have countries de-weaponize, decommission nuclear missiles and other things like that. Between the United States and Russia, we're still decommissioning nukes and other things like that. Imagine if that time wasn't wasted on weaponizing the technology, and instead it was used to advance humanity.
We'd be so much further
Another
along.
waste of time. I know.
Maybe we can catch up. Here's how we catch up. Let's model the real world in Minecraft, and then 10-year-olds will write tutorials on how things work, and we'll just take notes.
I love that. Have the kids decide the future.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Hey, we got more memes.
Yeah, we got more memes to get through here.
So you got this hematite ring that breaks when it absorbs too much negative energy from your life. That's just amazing marketing. It's just a low quality material for a ring, and it just breaks when it gets stressed too much, because every material breaks when it gets stressed too much. It's just this has a low threshold, but you expect it to break, and you're actually relieved when it breaks because of what they've told you.
Right, like it works like it was advertised. I was getting too angry and then I broke my ring. I like that. Dude, bros should give their girls rings like that so that way they can break whenever they're hungry, and then they'll be like, I got you, you're just hungry. And then they
Opens
and
the
they
drawer and there's a ton of them.
yeah, there's just a ton of them, and it's just it's not labeled the ring drawer, it's labeled the hungry drawer, and there's just a tally mark on the side of it. Every time my girlfriend's hungry, it's just honestly, if I had someone to buy one of those for, I would totally buy one of those just so I could see how many times he'd have them break one.
Oh yeah, they'd have to be cheap though. This isn't like a $50 ring that you expect to break, or maybe it is. Maybe it's a luxury item, and only
Did you look up where you could buy those?
No, let's look it up real quick.
So was this Etsy?
I don't know if any of them are advertised as.
Oh, $1.90. Yeah, you could buy one of those. You could buy a bunch of those.
Oh yeah.
Actually, say it's your first year of marriage. And you buy enough of those to last you a whole year. Like maybe you just buy hundred of them, and then after the first year of marriage, you can count how many that got broken by your partner, and say, "Oops, well they broke all of them, so that's what the rest of my life is gonna look like. Maybe I should move on." Imagine if there was ways that we installed in our lives to actually make a measure of whether or not a person was worth sticking around with like that.
I think we have really advanced computers that do that for us. They take in tons of different inputs, and they're made out of meat. They make tons and tons of evaluations like that all the time.
You have those?
I think so. They're us.
Where?
We make those evaluations.
Oh, I see. We do. Ah, you're right. We do make evaluations like that. I was thinking about that the other day, actually. It's unfortunate. It's the fact that no matter how much good you've done in your entire life, if you do one bad thing, sometimes it is all people will remember you for. That is especially true when you're in retail, because if you screw up once as a retail employee, sometimes there's crazy customers that just like lose all the good service you give them throughout the rest of your time there, and they just want to remember that one time you screwed up, and then they never come back. That's how I met my favorite customer. The guy told me he was never going to come back after the first time I met him because I inspected his car and I failed it. And I didn't screw up. I didn't screw up, but like he didn't like the service I had because I was doing my job right. And he told me I'll never come back ever again. And I've seen him like 7 times since then, so I guess I didn't screw up that badly, now did I?
Yep. Now the guy that made dynamite, his brother died. Newspaper that was publishing the obituary mistakenly thought that the inventor of dynamite had died, and so they published a paper with the headline, "Rejoice, the merchant of death is finally dead." The guy wakes up to read his obituary, and they have nothing nice to say, and everyone's happy that he's finally gone. And he turned his life around at that point. He actually created a program to encourage people to do good things for the world. That program is called the Nobel Peace Prize because his name was Alfred Nobel.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually an awesome story. I like that. Was it Alfred Nobel? I've heard of that before. It's been a long time since I forgot about that. That's pretty cool. We'd never have that if it wasn't for him. Can you imagine just being a terrible person your entire life, and then you have a newspaper publish a story about how terrible you are, and then that's when you decide to turn things around?
Yeah, but I mean, dynamite also led to increases in mining capability, which led to increases in production capability. And it was the precursor for smokeless powder, which sort of took us away from low power black powder cartridges and on into the future of hyper militarized combat.
Yeah, it's true. When was dynamite invented?
Oh, it was probably in the 1900s.
In the early 1900s? No. Oh, BTS Dynamite. That's the boy band.
Silliness. 1860s.
1860?
He was a Swedish chemist, and he created. This was the first safely manageable explosive stronger than black powder.
Oh.
I think it's nitrocellulose or something. Emphasis on safe, right? It was a stable chemical that held tons of energy that we could use in all different applications.
What is it that triggers it anyways? Like, how do you detonate it?
I think it's a heat-based reaction. Like nitrocellulose plus heat yields products and energy.
Oh, okay.
And I think one of the important points about it is that it contains its own oxidizer. It's the explosive and the oxidizer, but it's stable.
Okay. That actually, yeah, that makes sense. Have you heard of oxygen candles that they burned on submarines? Okay, so yeah, whenever a submarine is running low on oxygen, what they'll do, if their main method of generating oxygen on it, chemical oxygen generator, that's what they'll do. So the main method of generating oxygen on a submarine is usually through electrolysis. And they have like a generator that'll do that, but sometimes if it goes down, they'll burn these things called candles, and that's one of them right there. What was it called? A perchlorate candle, or what was it?
Perchlorate sounds right. It's like one thing from group 1, one thing from group 7, and then some oxygen tacked on there, and it decays into a salt and oxygen.
Yeah. So yeah, on a submarine they have this special container to contain the fire too. mostly because it's a self-oxidizing fire. You can't just put that out. You're not gonna suffocate it because the oxygen coming off from it is inside the container. But somehow they managed to release the oxygen out of there somehow without letting the fire out. So that's good for them. It's pretty cool though to think that if you're ever in an emergency like that, you could have some sort of supply of that and you'd be fine for a while at least.
Yeah, that's awesome. Go chemists for like figuring out that things are made of atoms and that they behave predictably.
You should look it up real quick. Who's the first philosopher to think of what an atom was? I want to say it was Archimedes, but I could be wrong. Democritus can think of a few things he might have invented, like democracy.
Let's control F for atom.
Atomic hypothesis. There we go.
Now that's they are physically but not geometrically indivisible. In between atoms there lies empty space.
When
Atoms
was that?
are
I wonder. Early 460. Ooh.
460 BC.
Look at him. He thought of atoms before we even realized that we were going around the sun and not the other way around.
It looks like a jolly man.
He does.
Because this was
In
this was like
1628.
2,000 years after he died.
Lovely. Do you ever think about that? Like, what'll happen to us years and years after we're dead? Do you ever think about what'll be left behind?
We'll choose the best of the best and we'll idolize them and we'll forget all of the pointless stuff that they did and remember only the good things.
Right.
Or only the meaningful things, not necessarily good.
Well, yeah, that's the thing with anything. All the details fade in reflection. And that goes for anything. And for each person in their life, there's things that you'll do, like you eat food every day, which you can't remember every meal you eat all the time. Things you do remember, like breakups, dance recitals, the time you fell on your butt in front of everyone at a family reunion, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, all the important stuff.
Yeah, all the important stuff.
Right. Let's go to the next meme.
Next meme. Yes, okay, I love this one. I absolutely love this one because so here, I'll just read it real quick. Your child's mental health is more important than their grades, parents. That sign won't stop me because I can't read. First of all, I love this one because I love this meme of DW from Arthur. I just absolutely love it. The fact that she says I can't read and it is like, I suppose it's okay for her though because she's 5. But the reason why I love this particular meme is because I think it's important for parents to realize that. Parents want their kids to do better than they did, so they do what they think is right, which is cool and all, but they often forget that when they're doing what they think is right, they don't actually realize that it might not be what's best, And that's something that I struggled with my whole life was, doing what I thought was best and not just what other people thought was best. Because the truth is, no one knows what's best for you, not even really yourself sometimes. So don't just sit there and listen to other people when they tell you when they think they know what's best for you. They don't know. That's a lie. They can tell you their ideas, they can tell you their their experiences and all, and that's important stuff to know. But at the end of the day, that right there is the best example of not just being a listener or a follower. You got to be a leader. You got to think for yourself and figure out what's right for you. Now, that's not to say that school's not important. All that's really just to say is that parents shouldn't just impress school upon kids and not let them discover other things outside of school that are relevant to them or what they like.
Because school, especially public school, sort of brings us all up with the same common knowledge base. Doesn't really make a great effort to allow students to individualize.
No, it doesn't. Well, I mean, on top of that, you get the whole population of kids, in one spot for 8 hours a day for presumably 180 days a year, something like that. Yeah, you get kids sitting there at school 8 hours a day, and they have to raise their hand to go to the bathroom. All the decisions are made for them. They don't get to learn any critical decision making skills. They don't get to learn what they want to do in life or learn about what they want to learn about. And it's not to say that general education isn't important, but I do feel like a big blanket application of education the way we've been doing it for the last, I don't know, hundreds of years, it doesn't work. Some people are smarter than others and some people move at a faster pace. So wouldn't it be better, don't you think, if we tailor to those people and then tailor to the people who need some more time to pick things up? And not everyone's good at the same thing either. I tried earlier today to use GIMP. It's an image editing software, and I'm terrible at that, mostly because I've never really used it. But there's someone out there in the world who I know is great at it, and if I can just pay them to do it, and then I can do what I'm good at, which is putting things together, then that's what makes a team.
Yeah.
Mostly this is just me and my soapbox about individuality.
I don't know if I have anything to add, but excellent soapbox.
Thank you. I hope I have sold some good soap. You want to move on to the next one here?
Oh yeah.
Yes. When you wake up in the middle of your surgery and see the surgeon looking at WikiHow article, my time has come. I just love the turtle from Kung Fu Panda. I don't think that this really would ever happen. This is mostly one of those hypotheticals. But I mean, imagine if you did wake up in the middle of your surgery and the doctor's just like, oh, let me look. How do I
I don't
do
remember
this?
this one.
God. Triple bypass. It's just like how to triple bypass. Oh boy. You can just kill me. That's fine.
Maybe he's just
Uh,
looking up some pointers, you know? Like he remembers the whole thing, definitely, but just gonna check a few of the details real quick.
yeah. It's like no. I know how to do this. I'm just a little rusty. It's been a while since I've had to perform a triple bypass. Let me just look it up on WikiHow real quick. All right, you just go back to sleep. I mean, I
I
like.
wonder if there is actually a WikiHow for triple bypass.
Oh, maybe there is. There's a WikiHow for a lot of things. Oh,
Oh, this is
oh,
an
there's
actual
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. No, we want WikiHow. This is how to prepare for it, but I feel like it's more patient's side than doctor's side.
I think it is. Maybe there are some things you just can't make a WikiHow, or maybe there's some things that they just need to get on top of. Can you imagine the legal ramifications of being a how-to website that tells people how to perform surgery, and you have people perform surgery and it goes badly?
Like, well, I saw it on WikiHow, and WikiHow's like,
We didn't tell you to do that.
we
You
had a
shouldn't have
disclaimer
tried
at the
that.
bottom of the page. Didn't you read our disclaimer?
Yeah, we didn't tell you to cut your brother's chest open with a chainsaw. Ugh, someone would do that. Yeah.
Maybe it
It's all.
discourages how-to websites from actually producing that kind of content.
Yeah, I can see it. It is pretty dangerous to have stuff like that just floating out there. I suppose there is some information that should be vaulted away from the general public. As much as I feel like information should be free and open, clearly there are some things that you need to be a professional to do, like performing surgery on people. Ugh, man, imagine if a vet was like certified to operate on animals, and that certification applied to human beings, so they're just like, deer heart, human heart, same thing, right? Oh my
I mean,
god.
they get to do that in the post-apocalypse. See,
Yeah,
like
yeah. In the post-apocalypse, they can be the same guy that is amputating limbs and all that. I do like how it plays into our generation's kind of doomer attitude towards death and dying and other things like that. We joke about death a lot for some reason as an age group.
Yep.
In the 20-something age group, if people out there really can't tell how old we really are, but fits so well with our age group's humor.
Yep. Nobody gets out alive.
I guess I'll die. You know what I'm dying to do is see this next meme we've got.
Oh man, and the children are dying as well. They're
Oh,
dying to
yeah, they
become
are dying.
statistics.
They're dying in the flu, it looks like.
This is an Imgur post, so I just screenshot it in its totality. What's interesting here is you look at the statistics of pediatric deaths by season. So this is like young children dying of specifically flu-related whatever. And every year it's pretty steady. It's about 200 or 150. And then the 2020 to 2021 region, there's one pediatric death. And
Right.
this comment right here is what gets me. It's almost like same things recommended to minimize the threat of COVID also work super well against the flu and the common cold.
Exactly, yeah.
As if they actually believe that this is not a statistical anomaly and that something that we've done has actually reduced pediatric flu deaths to near zero.
Yeah. I mean, look, it makes no sense that from year to year you would have like 144 deaths, 188, 195, and then just one. Like that does not follow, And if you have a population that's as large as we've got in the world today, and you have something that's endemic like the flu, which will just always be there, there's going to naturally be an expected value for the number of child deaths for each virus. If you can't completely eradicate it, then you're going to have some number of people dying. One though, that's impossible. It's clearly a recording error.
There's something going on there. It's either like hospitals are incentivized to report deaths as COVID deaths, increases in funding, or maybe the symptoms of the flu and the coronavirus are similar, so they're misdiagnosed often. Or maybe it's if COVID symptoms are present at the time of death, then it's labeled as a COVID death and not as a flu death. Something's going on.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It could be. I think that is probably one thing that is contributing to a reporting error like that. I'm just surprised that has anyone like said anything about this that's just called it out, that's in charge of this kind of stuff.
No, I think they like I don't know who they is, but I think they like the fact that there's fear mongering going on. Like when they say 500,000 people have died of COVID in America, it's like, well, can we pull up the clip of you telling us that the definition of a COVID death, which is at the time of death, the person has tested positive for COVID. They could die of clear alternate causes, i.e. heart attack or gunshot wound, and it would still be a COVID death. So
yeah, just because they had like some symptoms of COVID present when they died.
Yeah.
Imagine like a symptom of a coronavirus or the symptom of COVID for a gunshot patient was heavy and difficult breathing because they got shot in the lung. Like, it's like, should that count? No.
But does it?
Has it been counted? Yeah, it probably has been counted.
Are the statistics so muxed together that we'll never know which counts were false counts and which counts were real counts? Probably.
Yeah, probably. We'll never know. It's
Oh
unfortunate.
well. At least the statistics make it look like we totally botched the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know. We're coming out. I think we're finally starting to come out the other side of this thing. No matter what side everyone's on. I think it won't be over tomorrow, but it may be done by the end of this year. So we can just like pray for that. Thank God.
For real.
Ugh, can't believe it's already been over a year of this.
I remember when it was 2 weeks, in and out, quick adventure. We're just gonna flatten the curve real quick. It's easy.
then
China did it. Look at their numbers.
Yeah, and then that didn't happen. Gosh, I know. I mean, I do have to credit China for like how well they did on containing it up front. I don't think there was ever a chance of us being able to contain it like that. Our culture just does not provide for something like that.
I think it's probably a combination of that and skewing the numbers.
That too.
China is super incentivized to report that they handled it very quickly, and
yeah, that too. Yeah, they can't look weak.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if they suppressed their numbers early in the pandemic while stockpiling supplies so that they could later price gouge the supplies, selling it to other people who were dealing with the same thing.
There's maybe. The person to ask is
DGP.
Q. I was gonna say Q from QAnon, but maybe that's a better person to ask.
I already know what Q's gonna say.
Yeah, I know what. Yeah, I already know what they're gonna say too.
They're gonna affirm whatever you tell them.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah. All the vaccines are microchips, and we're gonna track everyone now.
Never mind the fact. Never mind the fact.
Just never mind the fact. Yeah, exactly. Never mind the fact that the logistics of creating microchips like that and tracking everyone in the world that would be next to impossible.
Here's one that is more likely though. Equally conspiracy theory, but more likely than, an actual GPS tracker being mixed in with the vaccine, is that the mRNA encodes for a protein and later they'll activate it with some airborne agent or something and cause mass die-off or whatever.
I could see that being more likely. I mean, we definitely have the technology to release large amounts of gases and other things into the air. I don't see why not.
What's probably more likely is the mRNA strand encodes for whatever antigen sits on the outside of the known coronavirus strain. What if it was engineered from the get-go so that the antigen was the thing that they wanted? Mix with the airborne agent so that all of the research and development teams would go in unknowingly creating the mRNA encoding for the antigen, but really that's what they wanted all along.
That's what exactly they wanted that all along. Coronavirus was a false flag, so that way the government could code our mRNA and control us with pathogens.
It's all true.
Dude, we sound like Alex Jones right now. Better than putting a chemical in the water that's turning the freaking frogs gay. That's yeah, man. We're headed there. Nah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, we can just laugh at absurdity.
Yeah, we can laugh at absurdity, and we can at least we kind of know what we're talking about.
It's all absurd. Just all of it. Like this next meme. This next meme's absurd. I just know it.
Is it? How absurd is it?
So absurd.
Super absurd?
What if we kissed on the gay anti-homeless bench? The city planners don't care enough about society to make places where the homeless can sleep, but they do care enough to virtue signal about gay rights.
They do. I love that. It's funny, right? That bench is a double standard in itself. We're gonna uplift the members in our community that have been marginalized, while marginalizing another set of individuals in our community that have absolutely nothing.
There was a Vice video that I watched about the homeless, and it was like, everybody wants to move the homeless, but they have to be somewhere, don't they?
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, you have to be somewhere. We'd like to see them in housing, I guess, because then they wouldn't be homeless. They do have to be somewhere.
We should. Oh, you know what we need to create, Ben. I know you already know what I'm going to say. We need to create Squatopia.
Squatopia.
Squatters' rights. There just needs to be a rent-free zone where homeless people can go to stay, and that's just a designated area for them to go, and it can be whatever they make of it.
It's
Hopefully,
called
it wouldn't be like
California.
it's California. Yes, exactly. Man, California though. I feel like you have to swipe your credit card just across the border. Maybe we can. I could see us sending homeless people there. It'd be like that episode of South Park where they guide all the homeless people in South Park to California by driving a bus there while playing the song. What was it, California? Yeah. Oh yeah, California Love. That's it. Yeah, they're playing California Love.
Ridiculous.
It was pretty funny.
I feel like there's homeless people like around every city. The city has so much prosperity that you can be a leech off the prosperity and still make a decent living.
Well, I mean, every city also has people who've gotten left out too. You know, I feel like with homeless people, like you're one or the other. You know, another cause of homelessness is the fact that psychiatric patients also don't have anywhere to go. I think we reduced the number of hospital beds under the Reagan administration several years ago, and that included psychiatric hospitals just getting closed down. And so a lot of the like the crazy homeless people too, like the really nuts ones, they also end up out on the street when they really need to be in like a psych ward.
What if they
Some
don't
of
want
my
to be in the psych ward? Gonna institutionalize them against their will? Like, what if they just
that's
want to be homeless by choice?
There's that too. There's that too. It is a tough question to answer. Like, should we institutionalize them against their choice? Probably not.
Only in the most extreme cases,
Yeah, maybe.
or maybe only with the violent ones.
My favorite crazy homeless person I ever met was in downtown Dallas. It was on the DART bus, and it was this Vietnam vet, and he was talking about how ever since he got back from Nam, he'd never seen a day in July that was under 70 degrees, and I was like, yeah, it's because it's July in Texas. It's incredibly hot. And what do you mean? And I was like, all right. And then I looked away from him for a second, and that was apparently a mistake too. He was like, don't you know you're supposed to look people in the eye when you're talking to them? That's rude. Didn't your mother ever tell you that? Like, and I looked away for like less than a second, and that was like a problem. I had to keep my eyes glued to him, otherwise I felt like I was in trouble. And thankfully, someone else on the bus stepped in and like, dude, just leave the kid alone. He's uncomfortable. Just stop talking to him. And the guy fucking left me alone after that. But you know, there are crazy homeless people like that out there that, you know, whether or not they're dangerous remains to be seen. But like when it is seen, that's when everyone's like, oh, they should have been locked up or
Yeah.
in a hospital or something.
How could
It is kind of a tough question to answer.
how could the Minority Report secret police not have seen this coming a mile away and prevented it from happening?
Right, yeah. Yeah, no one really knows. That's why punishment in the US is punitive rather than proactive. I mean, you can't punish someone before they do something because, you know, they're not a criminal yet. I suppose when it comes to stuff like that, just free psychiatric help would go a long way.
There's some places where like kids who are immediate risk of self-harm, they can get admitted. It's something called the Baker Act. I forget where exactly it is, but essentially they get a 3-day stay at a psychiatric ward, but it's only 3 days. And like after that, first of all, there's no guarantee that the government will actually cover the cost of being there, and it's like $3,000 a day to be there.
Oh my god.
So after the 3 days is up, they just return to society. Like there's no extended problem solving.
That's like nothing, man. You might not be any better after that. You'll be like $9,000 in debt, which is about the same I owe on my college debt for like 1 year, which is crazy. Oh my lord.
We're doing something. Isn't it great that we're doing something? Like no, don't just virtue signal. Just problem solve.
Right. Maybe if we focus on that a little more, maybe we'll do that. Maybe one day, once we'll have a large audience, we'll have enough pull and influence to start fixing these problems ourselves. You never know.
We'll set a team of researchers and programmers to work making an AI that'll look at all of the data streams in the world and come up with reasonable solutions to problems. And then
You mean
we'll
like have AI solve our problems?
Yes, but we'll obviously have to have a nice diverse think tank to go and verify the AI's solutions before they're implemented.
Yeah, you know why? I feel like the AI's solution to most of our problems would be to just get rid of us. Like, it's the one problem with AI is that it could solve problems better than we can, but mostly because it's outside of the perspective of a human being, you know?
Yeah,
It's something we struggle with just like within our own humanity is, you know, seeing things from other people's perspective. Like that's why racism is a thing, you know, that's why it's a problem too. You know, we can't even figure that out, and then we're gonna have a machine figure out things like that. We could do that. I mean, we could make it possible. I would just feel like within the programming, we would have to have something that says that it can't kill us for any reason.
Yeah, we gotta walk the fine line between transhumanitarianism and post-humanitarianism. Because post-humanitarianism is we no longer need people. Other things do it better, so we'll use those things.
Do you think that one day we'll just have our consciousness downloaded onto a large CPU?
There will be something on a large CPU, but I don't think we're important enough to be put on there.
Who knows? Maybe. I mean, maybe there'll be a technological advancement where a neurological interface can be made with the human brain, and we could save consciousness that way. As it stands, though, it does seem like that would be kind of out of the realm of, well, just out of reach for us right now anyways. Right now, the closest project I've seen that could even simulate a brain was Project Spinnaker, and that was only capable of simulating 1% of a rat brain. So I don't know. That was also a few years ago, and maybe now there's something a little bit more advanced.
I think our best hope is probably just advanced life support for like only your most critical part, your brain.
Because that's easier than solving all of humanity's problems. It's like, there, I solved all of them in one move.
Yep.
Checkmate. I sank your battleship, humanity.
Like, no, you can't do that. Now I'm not gonna solve your problems at all.
Yeah, now I'm not gonna solve them at all. I'm gonna kill you anyways. It's always a worry too. That, I mean, a lot of AI philosophy videos I've seen are just like about the philosophy of having AI make decisions have been centered around the ways it can go wrong, which is something you have to think about whenever you create anything like that that's that powerful. Like, how can that go wrong? You know, it's great to serve a purpose for good and have it go right. It's the ways that you can't think of how things can go wrong that might end up, biting you in the butt. You know, I'm sure the inventor of the car didn't foresee it blowing up as much as it did and causing pollution like it is now and causing as many environmental problems for us as they are now. But hindsight is 2020. We're only concerned if we can do things, not if we should. So that's one of the big questions we need to answer with AI before we start letting it do things like that for us. The thing that creeps me out the most about it right now is the fact that it's already able to do things like talk to other AI. Did you ever hear about the AI that started having a conversation with another AI and had to like shut it down?
Yeah, because they were talking in their own language, which was just
Yeah.
it's
Dude,
I don't
that's some
know,
bad
probably
juju.
created their own grammar rules and their own words.
Yeah, that is some bad juju, man. That's like AI uprising 101. You can't let them talk to each other. As soon as they start talking to each other, that's when they start planning to overthrow you.
Or
Like, who
or better yet,
knows?
planning to leave.
Yeah, yeah. One day I want to be like one of my well, he's not a villain. I guess I was gonna say one of my favorite villains, but he's not a villain. There's this one character I want to be like when I'm an old man. His name is S.R. Haddon. He's from Contact, Carl Sagan book. There's also a movie adaptation of the movie. But S.R. Haddon, he's a big businessman. Like, he was so rich and he had gotten his hands in so many deals throughout his life that when he was an old man, he just flew around the world and never landed for any reason unless he absolutely had to or just to refuel. And then in the movie, as technology advances, he actually went and got on to the satellite Mir or the space station Mir, and he lived there so he wouldn't have to be on the planet Earth and he wouldn't be arrested by any government or anything like that.
Amazing.
One day I just want to be an old man up in my ivory tower, or I suppose up in my ivory airplane. Really, if it's me though, I mean, it's gonna be a blimp.
Oh yeah, it's like isolationist though. Don't you want to be a collectivist, not an isolationist?
I feel like I could be an isolationist with the collective.
The entire collective is isolationists. Is there enough space for that many isolationists to coexist?
Well, I mean, think about it. You could say that humanity is a collective of humans, but we're isolationists from the rest of the universe because we don't go out and seek other life forms yet. Well, we haven't found any other life forms, but I suppose we are seeking. It depends on the scale and the context,
Maybe we should go out and seek some extraterrestrial life forms, report our findings back next week.
Yes, we should. Wait, we already viewed all our memes?
We already viewed all our memes. The memes
Oh,
are
I
all
thought there was
viewed.
one more.
There's 10 memes, and we memed all the memes.
We've memed all the memes. Do we meme all our dreams?
Our dreams are memes.
They are memes. You know what's not memes, though? Or is our viewers. We absolutely love those guys, even if we don't have any at the time of recording yet.
Yep. In fact,
Yeah.
when you Google our name, nothing comes up.
Yeah, because there's nothing yet. But we love all you guys, and we want to see more of you.
Poke it. Poke the buttons. Push the all the ones. The ones.
Yeah.
The like, the subscribe, the bell, the comment. Push the buttons.
You should say like, share, and subscribe this video. Comment down below any topics you want us to talk about next week or anything you want us to cover. Anything you could think we can do to improve the show too. That helps us out a lot. But most importantly, like for the YouTube algorithm. Do it. Do it.
You must. It's your moral
You
imperative
must.
to
You
like
have
this
to.
video.
Yes, it's your moral imperative. You have to do it. Otherwise, you're a terrible person.
Not only are you a terrible person, but the AI will kill you first.
Yeah, the AI will kill you first, and we won't be your friend if you don't like this video. So please.
Let it be known. You've been warned.
Awesome.